Hi, everybody. This is a brief overview on how to go over the SAT essay. So the first part is, what is the SAT essay? Well, the first is that you'll be given 50 minutes to read an argumentative essay and then compose your own essay that explains how the author convinces the reader of his or her point of view. So when it comes to exam day, you'll actually be given an essay to read, and I'll bring that up on the screen right now. So you'll be given an essay booklet, and in it will be an essay that has a point of view where the author is convincing us of an argument that they have. Now, before you even read this essay, you actually want to go down to the end of the booklet, and there's one sentence here that actually explains to you what the author's main argument is. So read that before you read the essay. So let's read this highlighted sentence together. Write an essay in which you explain how Paul Bogard builds an argument to persuade his audience that natural darkness should be preserved. So your task is to read this essay by Paul Bogard and find the three main methods that he uses to persuade the reader that natural darkness should be preserved. So you will not write a summary about this essay. You will not write whether you agree or disagree with the author. You will write about how the author convinces us that natural darkness should be preserved. Okay, so you'll need a couple tools before you take this on, which is that you'll need to have a basic understanding of persuasive methods in writing. These are called rhetorical methods. So we have in our essay handout, which I'll go back to right now, we have a glossary of terms starting on page 7. And there's a number of rhetorical methods that we give you. You don't need to memorize all of these, but we wanted to be very thorough, so we gave you examples of each of the methods listed. We list actually kind of the three big ones. You can likely get through the SAT essay even just knowing these three main ones, ethos, pathos, and logos. And likely you know more than just these three. So at the very minimum, make sure you understand how ethos, pathos, and logos are used to build someone's argument. And then we provide a number of other big rhetorical methods. So like using statistics, which is facts or data from a viable source. Diction is a big one. What kind of tone and words does the author use? So continue to study this glossary, because the better you know these terms, the more tools you'll have in your tool belt when it comes time to write the essay. Now, remember, at the exam center, you won't have any notes with you, so you'll need to memorize. I would say it would be a good idea to memorize 6 of these methods really well so that you can easily come up with an example of each method. That way, you know for sure you can write an essay or a body paragraph about each method. Okay, so take a moment. Let's go back to the essay, which is here. You can pause the video, go ahead and read this essay. And if you know your rhetorical methods really well, then annotate as you go the rhetorical methods that you find as you read. If you don't know your rhetorical methods yet, just read the essay, and then we'll study the rhetorical methods afterward. Then you can go back and annotate once you know your methods better. All right, I'll see you on the other side. Go ahead and pause the video while you read. Okay, now that you have finished reading this essay, I'm going to go through paragraph by paragraph and just quickly make little annotations on methods of persuasion or rhetorical methods that I've observed. So I'll start here with paragraph 1. And he says, at my family's cabin on a Minnesota lake, I knew woods so dark that my hands disappeared before my eyes. So this would be, there's actually a couple things going on here. This is visual imagery. It's also personal anecdote. Okay, and then he's got, but now, so let's continue. But now when 8 of 10 children born in the United States will never know a sky dark enough for the Milky Way, I worry we are rapidly losing night's natural darkness before realizing its worth. This winter's solstice, as we cheer the day's gradual movement back toward light, let us also remember the irreplaceable value of darkness. Okay, so I'm going to make my typeface a little smaller so I can fit more notes in here. Okay, so I also saw he actually uses statistics as well, the 8 out of 10 children. And so what I'll do is just keep adding notes, and then I'll decide later which methods I think I'd like to write my body paragraphs about. So the steps will be here, I'm annotating, and then I will choose 3 main rhetorical methods when it comes to write my essay. So on to paragraph 2. All life evolved to the steady rhythm of bright days and dark nights. Okay, just observe that he's using poetic language. Today, though, when we feel the closeness of nightfall, we reach quickly for a light switch and too little darkness, meaning too much artificial light spells trouble. Oh, okay, this is like foreboding. On to paragraph 3, he mentions the World Health Organization, so that would be appeal to authority. This would also be appeal to authority. This is also known as ethos, because he's referring to a credible source. Also, the American Medical Association. Let's see what else we see. Our bodies need darkness to produce the hormone melatonin. I mean, this is Logos. He's drawing on scientific facts about our health to argue for the fact that, logically we all want to live. So he's using Logos to persuade us that darkness is important even to our health. Okay, let's move on to paragraph 4. Okay, the rest of the world depends on darkness as well. This is paragraph 4 now. So nature. So again, this is data. This isn't really as much statistics, but these are facts. So this is more like Logos. So let's see, ecological light pollution. I also noticed bulldozer of the night. So that's diction. He's using like strong, vivid language. Bulldozer. Wrecking. Disrupting ecosystems several billion years in the making. Collapse. This definitely strong words, drawing our attention to how urgent the situation is. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. And notice the contrast here. Today's crowded, louder, more fast-paced world, night's darkness can provide solitude, quiet, and stillness. So contrast between the damage from artificial light compared to peace, darkness. And there's another method that he uses here, which is cultural significance. He mentions religious tradition and a Van Gogh painting. So he's also saying that it's important to culture that we preserve night. Okay, moving on to paragraph 6. So you can see that there's more than 3 methods I've already annotated in this whole essay, but I'm just listing out every single one I see, and then I'll decide at the end which 3 that I'd like to write my essay about. So this one, here's more statistics, data, and then ethos from NASA. There's also some pathos here where he mentions the last generation. Pathos is drawing on the emotions. And then let's see if there's something we can use from paragraph 7, which is the concluding paragraph. Light pollution is within our ability to solve. Okay, he's using logos here. These are facts about adjustments being made to lessen artificial light. He's just saying that there's hope here and that changes can be made, so we're not stuck in this bad situation. So that is the summary of what happens in paragraph 7. And let's go back to his closing sentence. We will never truly address the problem of light pollution until we become aware of the irreplaceable value and beauty of the darkness we are losing. So again, notice the choice of the words here. He is very poetic throughout this essay. So, by using these complementary words to describe darkness, that's another form of, that's diction. It's another way that he can persuade is by telling us that something is beautiful, so of course it's valuable as well. So those are my notes on annotating. You would do this quickly, of course, while you're writing, you would do this quickly while you're reading the essay during the exam. And then I would make my outline next on what my 3 favorite, or not favorite, but 3 strongest rhetorical methods are from the whole essay. Let's go back to paragraph 4. I also just wanted to point out that there are some, the author does use statistics in this paragraph. Here are 400 species of birds that migrate at night in North America. And this also is true. The bats and moths that pollinate 80% of the world's flora, that's a pretty strong statistic. So yeah, there's definitely statistics that are used in paragraph 4 to help strengthen the author's argument that this is an urgent problem. Okay, so looking at your notes, let's go over what the basic essay structure is. And from there, you pretty much be able to write the essay. So let's go over what should go in the thesis and body paragraphs of the essay. Okay, let's go back to the SAT essay packet here. And let's go to page 2, stage 2. And it's called Analyze and Plan. Now, it's important to know what your basic essay structure is going to be, so that it's always good to have a game plan since this is a timed essay. So it's generally a 5-paragraph essay. You'll have an introduction, which is your thesis sentence, or thesis statement. It could be 2, maybe 3 sentences, but keep it short and we'll show you what will go in it. And then there's 3 body paragraphs. Each body paragraph will have 4 important ingredients. Okay, so if you memorize what 4 things go in body paragraph 1, then those will be the same 4 things that go in body paragraph 2, where each body paragraph describes and discusses 1 rhetorical technique. Okay, so starting with body paragraph 1, you'll identify the rhetorical technique. Let's say I've chosen poetic language or visual imagery. So that's what I would discuss as that's what I would identify as my first technique. And then I would cite the technique, which means quote the essay. You do not need to use footnotes or like actual number citations or anything. You just need to quote the essay and show when the author is using that technique. And then the third part is explain how the technique contributes to the author's message and meaning. And number 4 is like a concluding sentence. What is the end effect on the reader when the author uses this technique? So you'll find this paragraph format with these 4 ingredients in the sample essay we provided. So what would be a good thing to do is you could pause the video and go back to the sample essay we have from a student and look for these 4 items in paragraph 1 so you can see how these 4 things are used in a body paragraph. Okay, now that you've seen how these 4 ingredients work inside of a body paragraph, we'll go on to body paragraphs 2 and 3. So body paragraph 2, choose a second technique to discuss, and then include the same 4 ingredients for discussing that technique. Same thing with body paragraph 3, choose a new technique, rhetorical technique, and then discuss by citing it, explaining how it contributes to the author's message, and then what is its effect on the reader? How effective is it at convincing the reader that they should agree with the author? And then finally, we have the conclusion, which is it's very brief, 2, maybe 3 sentences. Restate your thesis, and then mention some examples you use to support this in your essay. So now let's go back and discuss the thesis. So I first discussed how to write a body paragraph, because once you understand what you're going to write in the body paragraphs, then you will have a clear idea of what you need to put in your thesis. So now let's talk about how to write a thesis. All right, how to write a thesis. The thesis template is in step 3, craft a thesis. That is found on page 3 of the essay packet. So, like I said before, you'll find your 3 main techniques you'd like to discuss in the essay. And then here are some examples just to jog your memory. And then here is our thesis template. In other words, you can open your essay with this template and just start by saying, to persuasively make their point, the author employs technique 1, which is to make point 1, technique 2, which accomplishes point 2, and technique 3, which accomplishes point 3. Let's actually look at a sample thesis to make more sense of the template, and then you'll understand better what I mean. Okay, here's our sample about the importance of natural darkness. Okay, to persuasively make the point, and here's the point, natural darkness should be preserved, Paul Bogard draws in his readers with personal anecdote. So here I will highlight the technique, and then in green I will highlight the point or what he accomplishes with the technique. So personal anecdote accomplishes what? It draws in the reader. Let's move on to the second part. Paul Bogard reminds readers to consider the disadvantages of artificial light by alluding to culturally significant artwork. So that would be another technique, alluding to culturally significant artwork. And what does he accomplish with that technique? He reminds readers to consider these disadvantages. And finally, the third point, he confronts the audience with what future generations will lose by using, and here's our technique, he uses appeals to emotion. And what does he accomplish with it? He confronts the audience with what our future generations will lose. So a much better thesis in order to win you analysis points is to list both the technique in yellow and the point that he makes in green. If you only list your techniques in yellow, for example, then your thesis, you just won't get as many analysis points. So remember, you're being scored on reading, analysis, and writing. So this is the reason why we format the thesis this way, is you're explaining what the rhetorical techniques do in addition to listing the rhetorical techniques. Now, like I said, once you understand these techniques and have laid out your body paragraphs, it will be much easier to write your thesis because you'll be able to figure out what goes in the green parts once you understand what the techniques are doing. So that's it. So let's go over again, just as a recap, the format of the essay. It's a 5-paragraph essay. You have 50 minutes to write it, and you're scored on reading, analysis, and writing. You'll start with a thesis, which lists the 3 argumentative techniques that you've annotated in your essay, that you've annotated in the author's essay, and then you'll also discuss within the thesis what those argumentative techniques accomplish. Then you'll go on to discuss in 3 body paragraphs, 1 technique per paragraph, and then you'll conclude it with a brief, maybe 2-3 sentences that just recaps your thesis and the techniques used to accomplish the author's point. Okay, that's it for the SAT essay. Remember to review your rhetorical techniques and to go over the sample essays that are provided. Thank you.